Hi guys, this is Kim, and today I'm going to do a composite tutorial on using digital backgrounds. Hopefully we don't have too much background noise going on here. My office is pretty close to our chicken coop, so if you hear an occasional rooster crow, I do apologize. We are going to be using this digital backdrop, and we are going to be putting this young lady and trying to make her clothes match up a little bit better to the scene into the digital backdrop. This is a model, and this is a backdrop that I have created in my store for Valentine's Day. So I have both images open, and what I'm going to do first is I'm going to remove her from the background. And this is going to be a little trickier than some because she is not very far away from her current background. There's not a lot of distance between her and her background, so it's going to be a little trickier than some. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to choose my quick selection tool. And I'm going to scroll in here and I'm going to be on plus, which means add. Minus would be take away from your selection. Excuse me. And I'm going to start selecting her. I'm going to slowly drag. And with any composite, especially one where there's not a lot of high contrast, it's never going to be perfect. You try your best to do the wispy hairs. But it's not going to be perfect. So as I drag here, you can kind of watch. If it starts selecting a ton of stuff, scroll in and make your brush smaller. We'll have to fix that. Start selecting her. As we go here. It's doing a pretty good job of selecting the colors versus the background most of the time. See-through dresses are kind of a bear as well. But I wanted to try to show you guys something that wasn't shot in a perfect situation to remove them from the background. Sometimes you don't always think that you're going to remove someone from a background when you shoot the photograph. If I know that's what I'm going to do, then I would shoot differently. She would have been on a plain color background and we would have had a lot of blur in the background. Our depth of field would have been set differently, but that is not the case for this situation. So here's our general selection. It's okay. It's not great. We are going to need to clean this up a little bit before we go to refine edge. So I am scrolling with my mouse wheel in here. You can also go up to view and zoom. I'm going to go over here and click minus. And then I'm going to bring this in a little bit. I'm also going to use the bracket keys on my keyboard to make this brush size a little bit smaller. We're not going to get every strand of hair here, guys. It is what it is. We'll refine that up a little bit more and refine edge. I'd rather have too much selected than not enough. Make this a little bit smaller. These stripes on the pillow are a bear. I've removed her from this background one other time and it was a bear. But like I said, you don't always get perfect situations, so I want to demonstrate a not so perfect situation. While I'm dragging, I am also holding down on my left mouse key. I'm going to go back up here and we need to add back in her dress a little bit here. I'm holding and dragging, letting go. Not quite getting up there further enough, is it? That's pretty good. Well, we will have to touch this up. Okay. The pattern on the pillow is really challenging. The algorithm thinks that should remain part of the picture, and we don't want it. See-through dresses can be a bear too. For obvious reasons, it sees the colors in contrast underneath that you don't necessarily want. I'm going to scroll into pixel level here. It's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. We want that though. We're going to leave that. We'll fix it in post. Not too bad. You guys get the idea, though, of what we're trying to do here. I got some color cast from this dress onto this pillow, so it thinks that you want part of the pillow, too, because it's got a purple color cast on it, which we do not. Okay, I'm going to wheel out here and take a look and see. Oh, forgot between her knees. Let's make sure we're on minus. And see if we can pull this off. Yeah, it likes to grab stuff that it doesn't need. That's pretty good. Considering. Okay, I think that's as good as we're going to get for right now. The next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my mouse and go to select. I do not go to select and mask. Excuse me. I just don't like how it works in the new Photoshop CC. You can go to select and mask and do that if you'd like. If that is your preferred method, please feel free. I go to select. I go down to select and mask here, but before I click it, I hold the shift key on my keyboard and I hold it while I click. This brings up the old refine edge dialog box, which I prefer, maybe because I'm old school and I'm used to it. That's what I prefer to use. Either way is fine. This is just how I do it. There's usually more than one way to skin a snake, so they say. I'm going to go around this now with my refine edge tool, and it's going to refine it to a certain degree. Again, it's not going to be perfect. I will have to fill this in with some color. Just going to keep going around here with the refine edge tool and get this the best that we can, and we're going to have to do a little bit more in post. Yeah. You're going to move your sliders to the appropriate, whatever you think works best. If you have any crazy choppiness, you'll want to do that as well. And this isn't going to look as horrific once we get it into the photograph. Looks a little nuts right now, I agree. Okay, I think we're going to leave it there for right now. I'm going to choose output to new layer and layer mask. You have a bunch of options here, but I always do new layer with layer mask so that I can touch it up some more. So I'm going to hit OK. And then we're going to come in here and I am going to take my eraser and I'm going to take my bracket keys and I'm going to make it lower opacity. And I'm just going to touch in here so it brings some of the background through once we place her in there. So it looks a little bit more natural. I really would like to get this back. So I'm going to go to my brush tool. I'm going to go to my brush tool here and I'm going to make sure I'm on the layer mask and I'm going to choose white and make my brush a little bigger and I'm going to paint back in a little bit of what we're missing here. On the top of her head. Just feel like it took a little bit too much of that out when I did it. And if you want this to be a little bit lighter over here, move your opacity down and brush it on. So you're looking for a good blend here, guys. Like I said, it's not going to be perfect. And I could spend hours fine-tuning this, and I'm not going to do that today. Just trying to make it as natural as possible here. Hair's tricky. That probably needs to be a little bit darker. Opacity is a big thing, and it'll help you a million different ways when you are trying to composite stuff. So remember that. Opacity and flow. See here, this is going to be, you can see the the squares that are coming through. It means it's a little bit translucent. And that's okay, because we want our background. Normally, when you would put a person on a background that they are truly in front of, they're going to have some of that background coming through. Looks pretty good. Oh, well, I can see something that doesn't look pretty good. All of this. So, I didn't catch that. We're going to go off of the layer mask onto the actual picture. We're going to get our eraser, and we're going to just do it by hand. And this gets a little bit tricky. But we are not on full opacity, so it should be on 100%. And I am doing this with a mouse today, guys. And I'm going to actually take away that shadow in her armpit a little bit. I am not using the pen. I am not using a tablet. Most everybody is using a mouse. So I always try to do edit tutorials with a mouse. And you can do this in your photo too. I mean, once you've put her into the background, you could do this and bring the background through. I mean, that's another way to do that. I try to clean her up as much as possible before I get her in there, and then I blend her edges. I'll have to blend a little bit right there. You can see the orange. And it's hard when you're at pixel level sometimes, which is where we're at, to see exactly what's going on. It's a little bit fuzzy. We are scrolled way, way, way in. Sometimes that's the only way to do it so that you get it accurate. So there's that. Probably want to clean this up just a little bit. It's okay if this is a little fuzzy. I'm okay with that. But I can see where I selected before. It did not do what I wanted it to do. So we are going to do this. Basically what we're doing is we're removing from this photograph what we don't want. And I am holding the mouse down and dragging. Click, hold, drag. And we are on the eraser tool. And as some of you watch this, you may realize, well, there's a different way to do that. There's usually about 5 or 6 different ways to do something in Photoshop when someone's teaching it. I don't always touch base on all of them, but just know that if you have no different way to do this or go about it, and you prefer your method better, then by all means. I just want to give you the general idea of how I go about doing things. All right. I think we might want to paint this in a little bit. Go back to the layer mask. Go to our white. And the reason why we're able to do this is because our background layer is still here. So I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger and kind of see what we have go. Whoops. Undo, step backwards. We are still on eraser. Let's go to brush. Just going to bring that dress back in here just a little bit. We can even make this a little bit more solid. Translucent dresses, tulle, all of those things, that they can be hard to extract. You just got to keep working it. If you know that you're going to take photographs and you're going to use a digital background, then by all means, you need to shoot the photograph on a background of opposite color, number one. Get your subject away from the background at least 5 feet so that you can choose a shallower depth of field the more the background is blurred out and is the opposite color of your subject, the easier it is going to be to extract your subject from the background. In this situation, this is not an ideal situation, and that's why I wanted to do a tutorial on it. However, if you're going into it knowing these are Valentine's minis, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to use in my backdrop, for my backdrop, and it's a digital backdrop, then you will already help yourself out tremendously. I'm going to leave her the way she is. I'm okay, for the most part, with the way she is. Now, in order to get her over here, I'm going to apply this layer mask. So I'm going to right click, and I'm going to apply it. And then I'm going to hit Control A to select all. See my little dotted lines? And then Control C on my PC keyboard. I'm going to click over to this backdrop. I'm going to create a new layer down here. You can also go up here and create a new layer by going here and New and Layer. I'm going to click on this layer, and then I'm going to hit Control V to paste. Now, we will deal with blending, light, colors, size, all of those things. Although she miraculously plopped herself right on the couch. That very rarely ever happens. Now we need to see what we can do. And we're going to have to touch up her hair here because I just don't like how it's looking. It's looking very pasted, very cut out. We will deal with that momentarily. However, to be honest, she's sitting there pretty good, and I'm pretty shocked. Usually whenever I paste something in, it comes way over here and we have to move it around. So if that happens, you choose your move tool and you move her around. You can put her wherever you want. You can move her however you'd like. Okay. You can also do some perspective warp. Are you familiar with perspective warp? It's interesting. You make sure you're on your layer. You use this. You click down at your corner. You take Control and Shift on your keyboard. You hold it there. And you take your mouse, click, and you push. See the difference in perspective here? Hold on to that Control key though. Control and Shift need to be held down the entire time you're doing this with your mouse. Then once you're off the corners, let go of those two keys. You can click OK, and her perspective has changed. That can help you get something look a little bit better when you're trying to put them in the situation. The one thing that I find personally when I am photographing and I want to put a baby into something or a child onto something is perspective and angle. Make sure that your perspective and your angles match up. For instance, if you're trying to put a toddler or let's say a newborn into a basket, and that basket, when you shot it, when you photographed it, you were shooting from above. Well, the baby that you photograph will need to be shot from above, or it will make sense. It's very hard to mingle your pictures. Now, she was shot straight on. This young lady was sitting on something. The couch was photographed. I photographed it straight on. So it'll make more sense that way. And as you get into composites, you'll notice that the perspective and angles are definitely a big deal. Now, if we step backwards, we can see how she was. Step forward. Step backwards. Step forward. All right, so some of the things that we're going to do when we're in here. We are going to put a layer mask on this layer. Layer mask. And I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to do some edge refining. So I want black because my layer is white. Put my brush up a little bit. I'm going to see here. I'm on a soft brush. The hardness is bumped up just a little bit, and I am on this brush. And I just need to refine her a little bit. And you're going to go in between a large brush and a small brush. And this just takes time and patience. No, actually, I'm just going to take that curl right out of there. It's driving me crazy. This is on 100% opacity right now. You may need to change that. We've got some crazy whiteness going on in here. I'm going to bring my opacity down, bring my brush up, and try to get rid of some of that white. Bring a little bit of that red onto her hair. It looks kind of weird when you're scrolled in, but it won't look weird when you're scrolled out. Try to trim some of this up a little bit. I'll have to fix that a little bit more. Over here, you've got a couple different options. You can bring down your opacity, bring up your brush, and start bringing that background through so that you don't get all the hair out of there. Yeah, that'll have to be fixed. And you can just, I'm not going to spend like 3 hours on this, guys. Sometimes that's what it takes. But this is how you get it to blend a little bit better. Bring it through. And then you're going to do different layers. A layer of low opacity, a little bit higher opacity, a little bit higher opacity. And then you can do cloning over this as well. Cloning hair. Go on the main layer. Go to clone. Alt key. Choose your spot. Which I may not want to do that. Click here. And you can just start cloning hair. Right on top of it. Okay? You can go up here and get some lighter hair if you want, and you can clone down. And if you want to completely fill that in, you'll need to apply your layer mask before you do that. You always want to make sure you're sampling all layers. So a lot of times what I will do personally is I will wait till the end. I will make a mental note or I'll write it down of some spots that need cloning, and I will wait till the end and I will clone them out or clone on top of them. We probably will do some cloning right in here just to make it look a little bit better. We will probably do a little bit of cloning right here. This is couch, but this white right here, this layer, we will clone. Now, I'm going to go back on the layer mask. I don't want to apply my layer mask right now, so I'm just going to keep trucking where I'm at and go from there. We've got a little bit of white showing there, which this is not on 100%. Get it really close to 100% here. And you're just going to go around and you're going to touch this up. She's got kind of a crazy shadow going on there, which I tried to pull out and did not work as well as I would have liked. She's a little translucent right there, but that's okay. She doesn't have a harsh line or a halo. I'm going to leave it. And like I said at the beginning of this tutorial, this one was going to be difficult for the reasons I stated earlier of how the photograph, what scene we were taking her out of. It could be a little difficult. And she's sitting on this couch, so I want to make this couch bend a little bit. It naturally would be smushed down, and we're going to touch base on that, and we're going to do a little liquefy. And we need to add some shadows. Right now I'm just trying to give you a general idea of how you're going to clean up this image. Most people are not going to scroll into 350% and check out your edges, but if it looks cut and paste, it's going to be obvious. Check out her feet. Yeah, I might have to do a little cloning right there. She's missing a little bit of a toe, I think. Yeah. It's kind of hard to tell. Yes, she is. We'll have to clone her toe a little bit. So I'm going to continue to go around and... Why is this not doing anything? I'm not on black. Clean this up just a little bit. Alright. So, I'm going to go ahead and apply this layer mask. And we're going to go to the couch layer. And she is on the middle cushion. Sometimes this takes a minute to play with. And we want to give it a little bit of a dent, so to speak, because she's sitting on it. Naturally, if she was photographed on this, she would have a little bit of a smush to the couch. So I'm going to go up here to filter. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to duplicate my background layer so that I can delete this after the fact if I do not like it. I'm going to hit Control J on my keyboard and I'm going to duplicate this layer. And I'm going to name it the Liquefy layer. I'm going to stay on this layer so that we don't destroy the background. filter, liquefy. Remember, middle cushion. Okay, here's liquefy. I'm going to make my brush smaller. I'm going to stay on here. There's a million different things that you can do in here, including face liquefying, which you need to be really careful of. It can be helpful, but you need to be really careful changing facial features. But I like to use this for hair, making hair wavy, curly, making flags fly, cushions, things like that. So I'm not even going to go into the 9 million different options in here. We're going to stay on this. We're going to leave our pressure where it's at and our density where it's at, and our rate we're going to bump up. Well, I have to start going before I can move my rate. But she is on this cushion. So let me show you what this does. Liquefy is important that you do it just a little bit at a time. Otherwise, I kind of have to guess where she's sitting at. Click, drag until you're kind of where you're wanting to be at. I'm going to hit OK on this for now. We're going to see how she lines up. All right. It's not too bad. This is before. This is after. This one needs to be a little different. Now, before, after. So I think this side's okay, but this side I went a little bit too far with. So we're going to go back in here and move this up just a little bit. Let's see it now. It's a little bit better. I think it could go down here just a little bit more. Oh, we don't want to do that. Okay, before, after, before, after. Sometimes you just have to take a look at it. Another thing that you could mess with for a while, you would just keep going back to liquefy and checking out where you think. I almost think this needs to be up a little bit more here and a little bit more down here. This side looks fabulous. This needs a little bit more of a gradual, but you get the idea. That's how you do it. And if you don't like it at all and you want to start completely over, you select this, you hit delete on your keyboard, or you right click and you delete this layer, okay? Then you make another background layer by doing Control J again, and you start all over again. See, this way, if you don't like it or it gets all messed up, then you can start over again. But you get the idea, and that's a great introduction to the liquefy filter. You could also come up here to her hair if you wanted to. She's got some great curls. But if you wanted to go on this layer and you wanted to go to liquefy on her, ooh, I went too far. You could make your brush smaller and you can start making her hair bigger. Slight adjustments. Long way. Slight adjustments. And I did not make a copy of this layer, which I should have before I did this. I should have Controlled J in order to make a bigger copy. But as you can see, I made her hair fuller. Okay? Now if I go step backwards, step forward. Before, after. So you can play around with that and see what you need. There's a lot of different ways to use the liquefy tool. I personally do not like messing with people's facial features. Every once in a while I use it to get a little bit better definition on a smile. Other than that, and moving couch cushions, flags, things like that, it's not my personal preference. but that is individual. Now we've got a couple different things we can do here. She's a pretty warm, her tone is, for the scene. I'm going to go ahead and layer, go to a new adjustment layer and go to curves. And I'm going to call this the girl. And I'm going to clip it down to this layer. I'm going to hit OK. And come in here, and does she need to be brighter? No, I don't think so. Does she need to be toned down a little bit? I do think so. Come in here to our red channel and take a little bit of red out of her. You gotta be careful, because as soon as you do this, it's going to take other things out as well. Come down here to our blue channel. Add just a little bit of blue. I think that's good. One other thing that I need to do is I'm going to go ahead and merge these. Click, Shift key, click, right click, so you've chose both layers, and I'm going to go to merge layers. That way I can do other edits and we're not stacking so much. Now for her, I'm going to duplicate her, Control J, and I'm going to call this shadow. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to add an adjustment layer of curves. I'm going to clip it down, and I'm going to say that this is the girl's shadow. It is a good idea to get used to naming your layers. This is a very simple composite, so to speak, but if you go do a composite that has 75 layers and you don't label your layers, it gets confusing really quick. So I try to tell people, get in the habit of naming them immediately. We are affecting this girl right here, this shadow, not the original. So we're trying to make shadow. So we're going to take it all the way down and click out of it. Now I'm going to grab the girl and I'm going to move her on top in my layers panel. I'm going to go to the shadow, going to go to move, and I'm going to create a shadow. Somewhat. Now, way too dark, so I'm going to go to the opacity of this layer, and I'm going to bring it down a lot. Now I'll probably get rid of some of this on the floor. Well, we'll put something on the floor, but it's not going to be like that. I'm going to bump it up just a little bit. And this shadow layer right here, I'm going to go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian, Blur, and watch the shadow. It takes it down so it's not so harsh. Okay, I'm going to put a layer mask on this by going down here and hitting layer mask. I'm going to choose my brush. I'm going to choose a black brush because we have a white mask. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take some of this shadow off the floor right here because it doesn't make sense to me. You can also do it again on this side if you want to have some shadow underneath her dress, which her dress sits on there pretty good. There's a million different ways to do it. You could also do a gradient as well. Now I'll show you what a gradient does. I'm going to put all of this together by holding the shift, and then I'm going to Control G for group, and I'm going to put girl. So that's all the layers that have to do with the girl. And now I'm going to go to the background layer and I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to go to gradient, and I'm going to go up here and I'm going to go foreground to transparent, which is this. I'm going reflected. Here's another way to do a shadow. Draw down, try to get your line. Oh, it's not doing it. Oh, I think it did. It's just really, really low. Then you can move it around and move up your opacity. You can move it around, go up here to your opacity and move it up to 35%, and then you're going to want to move it on top of this layer so that you can actually see it. Go back to your move tool and you can shift and hold and make this bigger. It's also not straight, because apparently I didn't draw straight. Like this. So if you're wanting a shadow underneath all of this, or even just under her, you put a shadow under the couch as well. Go here and, well, hit OK. And bring it down. And then if you don't want the shadow on the ends, just put a layer mask on there. And I wouldn't do it at 100% because it'll probably be too harsh. Stay on the soft brush. And mask off what you don't necessarily want. So there's the shadow under the couch. I would also go up here to Filter, Gaussian Blur, and I would blur it. I'll use a little bit more than that. And it'll become, well, see if you go like this, it's hardly noticeable at all, but take it down like that. All depends on your preference, your lighting, what you're trying to achieve. All of these things are photograph independent. Now, she's got a shadow. I have lens filters. So normally I would go up here and I would go to lens filters. There they are. And I would push play. Now, this is no different than if you want to do this as an action. However, if you want to do this yourself, all you do is create a new layer as a gradient and put these colors in. So you could go to new layer, well, go up here to layer, new fill layer, and a gradient. And you would not clip it down, and you would hit OK, and then you would choose your gradient color to go over your image. Okay, so you would come in here, and you would choose your gradient color, and you would choose what filter you pretty much want to put over the entire image, and then you would adjust the opacity. That's what all of these are that I just opened. I've just have them already set up. And why I use lens filters is because these two images, or 3 or 4 in this case, because the background, the floor, the couch, and the young lady are separate images, were most likely taken at different times of the day, different locations, different lighting, different tones. Some might be cooler, some might be warmer. I do this to blend. So I can turn these on and off to see what works best. And they are very, very strong. And I would, let's say that's a blue, I would suggest never using them at full strength. Always tone them down. But you get the idea. And you can see the colors that were chosen right here. And these are all gradients. That's all they are. So for instance, this one. You can also stack them. You can use this one and this one if you want. If you want to get really crazy. For instance, this one. I would choose it, say, and close the group, and then I would bring it way down. And that's going to give an overall tonal image to the image. Everything's going to have that tone on it so that it brings everything together. If you're doing a winter scene, you're going to want to do it more on the cool side. So you would add the blue. And then you can just use the opacity of the layer, or you can stack them on here to whatever you want. But that's what these are. I just have them bundled so that I don't have to create them every time. But all they are is going to layer, creating a new fill layer, going to gradient, because these are gradients. They gradually come across. Choosing your color and choosing if you want the gradient to come down this way, this way, this way, or this way. It's completely up to you, okay? So we have that on there. And so what I'm going to do now is I would typically save this as a Photoshop document, okay? I'm not going to do that today because I already have it saved. Then I would go up here and flatten my layers. And I'm going to do some cloning. And to choose what you want, you're going to hit the wrong button and make it bigger. You're going to get your brush the size you want. You're going to hit the Alt key to choose. I want that right there. So we are just going to paint over her hair a little bit, fill in the weirdness. This one might be a little trickier. Okay, Alt to choose here, and I'm just going to paint down through here, which I don't like how the end turned out, but you get the idea. This is the couch, actually, that we're seeing back there, so I don't really want to clone that out. It's one of those things. It looks a little strange at the moment, which I guess we could bring some hair over it, just because of the way she's positioned on the couch. So, Alt, key, click. Sometimes, see, you gotta watch what you're doing here, because if I'm gonna be painting this way, I gotta choose appropriately. I need to be painting this way. So, Alt, and then I just need to go down and down. Oh, see, now I'm in the red. That little crosshair, that is what you're doing here. Make it bigger. Come up here. Bring this down here. So it looks like, yep. There we go. It's probably a little bit too poofy right there, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to do. You can also change, for hair, I usually leave it on a soft brush, and it's pretty hard right now, so let's get it over here. This is showing through white, which you don't necessarily want. I'm going to be painting down, so I need to probably come up here. And that's going to be too light in the shadow there. Okay, I need to get in here and go here. Alt, click. Alt, click. Paint. Alt. I filled that in. See, I took it up from here, and that's in a highlight. It's not in the shadow, so I could go over this. I don't know if I'm going to. Well, we'll do it just for purposes of this video. I'm going to be painting down, so this is a curl that's going this way, so I almost need to grab from here. So it makes sense. And then make it a little bit bigger. A little bit of couch showing through there, and that's okay. To me, that looks a little too repetitive. I'm not liking it. Let's edit and step backwards. Thank gosh for the undo button, right? Okay, what if we go here? That looks a little bit more natural, I think. And it still leaves some of the couch there. All right. What I always do with these is I always walk away and come back a little bit later and check it out. She could probably use a little bit of shadow here. She could probably use a little bit of shadow here. She could probably use a little bit of shadow right here. And we need to fix her toe. She's missing a toe. Alt. I would just paint like that. Pretty good. I would also come back in here with a brush, a hard brush. See how this is kind of soft. And make sure you clean this up a little bit. It looks a little hazy. But all in all, guys, that's how you would use a digital background the long way. Because this photograph was not taken thinking that I was going to use a digital background and she was going to be a model for the digital background. You can sit here all day and you can see things that are wrong with this. But the general public, when you are presenting this to a client, is not going to scroll in at 500% and say, her feet look a little bit fuzzy. Did you use a hard brush or a soft brush? So keep that in mind. Digital backdrops can save you a ton of time and a ton of money if used the right way. They need to make sense with the scene that you have going on. and you need to match up your lighting. The other thing that we could do here is, obviously her clothes would not be what I would have chosen to have on a red couch. And something I didn't do, and I probably should have before I flattened it, was change the color of her dress. Now, if I go up here to layer, new fill layer, solid color, there's a bunch of stuff that you could do. What color do you want her dress? It would be my thing. I chose a color. I'm going to go down here to multiply, and I'm going to click on the mask and hit Control-I to invert. And then on this mask, I'm going to come to brushes. It's a black mask, so I want a white brush. There's several different ways to do this, but this is one of them. If you want to change the color of her dress to a different color, and this is not on 100%, but if you got it on 100%, you could, I'm going to do this very fast and very sloppily. You should be scrolling in and doing this. You get the idea. You can change the color of her dress, and you'd have to go around all of that. But it is possible. I have done it in several of my composites. I change baby blanket colors a lot. But I'm not necessarily saying you'd want red on red here, but for this example, you can change the color. And then you could change the color of her belt to black, and you could change the top to white, multiplying or using one of the blend methods here for your layer. You get the general idea of how to do that. I can't scroll. Why can't I scroll? There we go. This is how you would change the color. I mean, obviously, it did a very, very quick job of that. That's going to bug me. I would scroll like this if I was doing this and this was for a client, and I would be going around everything to a T. Okay, but that's how you would change the color of that. And you could even match it to the couch if you wanted to. I'm not saying that I suggest that, but if you want to go up here to the eyedropper tool and you want to pick this color, oh, it's beyond the background layer when you do it though. Hello. You can see it's going to pull your color from different areas, or the background, or if you wanted it to be this color or that color. And then you could go ahead and change your color layer to whatever that is. You can also go out here when your color layer is here, and you can choose and change whatever color you want that to be. Now watch her dress. See? Change the color of her dress. I hope this was helpful for you guys. I'm going to try to do a video tutorial weekly. A lot of times it'll probably be on different ways to composite, different scenarios and scenes. It's impossible for me to touch on everything that you could possibly do to composite an image in one video. So I hope this was helpful for you guys, and I hope you have a great afternoon. Lastly, if you guys are interested in digital backdrops, you can visit farmtruckdesign.com. I do have a weekly sale every week that lasts for a week for $1 and $3 digital backgrounds. And I also have other backgrounds that are regular priced that are great for studio drops. Have a great day.